All right, welcome. Week 3, almost done. This is awesome. So, one more week. Think you can make it?
Yep.
Good. You've done well so far. I saw the sheets from last week, and I'll see the sheets from this week, so it always makes me smile. I bragged about everybody this weekend because I taught a nutrition course to doctors, and we were talking about the purification program, so I had to brag about my 2 groups and how much they were losing, and so they want data after the class, so I said I'll send it. So now we're days 15 through 21. Nothing changes. Sorry about that. Same thing. This hasn't changed at all through the whole thing. Remember, still no corn, peas, or white potatoes. You can have sweet potato. I found some organic heirloom potatoes, sweet potatoes, which are like different colors. I actually planted some. Mine aren't ready to eat yet, but it's kind of cool because it's pretty, me and the pretty thing. And then we have your fruits. Remember, still the same rule goes, 2 veggies to 1 fruit. And I pretty much reserve my fruit for shakes. I don't really eat a whole lot of fruit. I may have an apple. I may slice an apple and have a few slices of that, but most of my fruit comes in a shake. It doesn't particularly make me feel good, especially if you have grapes sitting out. You sometimes have a tendency to eat too many grapes because they're a lot of sugar. So you want to be careful of that. That's going to keep you from doing the weight loss you want if you have too much sugar. Remember the oils. I want you to make sure you're keeping the oils in there. That goes against the grain of somebody when they're trying to lose fat, that they're still eating fat. But remember, it's not the fat that makes you fat, it's the sugar that makes you fat. So if you don't learn anything these 3 or 4 weeks or 21 days, is that sugar is what makes you fat, not fat. So I saw you Monday. So last week on Tuesday, we had our Women of Wellness. Sally was there. And I did a talk on sugar. And then I brought several items. And I think I posted it in the ice cream. And it was pretty amazing just to watch the light bulbs go on. Especially, I had a package of M&Ms, just a small package, and there's like 32 grams of sugar in it. So I had them spoon sugar into a clear plastic cup. I mean, it was almost bigger than the whole package itself. I'm like, you might as well put a little food coloring and a little chocolate, and I'll give you a spoon. And it really was amazing. And the ice cream, for those that aren't on Facebook, it was a little Ben & Jerry's, 4 ounces. It was 280 calories, 14 grams of fat, 25 grams of sugar. So Tuesday, we did our thing that night. I put everything in a bag, put it in my car. It was late when we got home, and I just put everything out, set down. I'll get to it later. Then I went out of town to Destin, and I came back Sunday night, and I saw the bag. I'm like, oh, crap, I'm going to have a little problem here. So I go get everything out of the bag, and it was really only the ice cream I was worried about. Well, I opened the lid, pulled off the top. It looked exactly the same like it did before when it was probably frozen. It hadn't changed a bit. And it sat in my hot garage for 4 days, well, from Tuesday to Sunday. And, 90-degree weather we had, and it did not change its shape. So that was pretty gross. So I did post pictures of that on Facebook just to remind everybody. But it was kind of shocking to see. And so that just tells you how, processed it is. I'd rather you make something like with your Cuisinart and use your real fruit and sweeten it naturally. Maybe use a little coconut milk instead of getting the processed stuff. So we're going to talk about trans fats, because I know this is a really confusing topic, and we hear a lot about it. We're really not sure what it is, but I'm going to tell you. So trans fats are these things. That's what people think makes the food go round. But what really it is just a cheap way to make things last longer on the shelf. The problem is it's an unsaturated fat, and it has a trans arrangement of the carbon atoms, which means we go in and hydrogenate it, we heat it up to high temperatures, and we change its really general makeup. So it doesn't even look like it was what it was when it started. So it gives you this kind of a structure. So it's like me taking my leg and putting it where my arm is, and my arm where my leg is. So it doesn't even resemble anything of what it's supposed to be. So we take a double bond here and flip it over. That's where the trans comes in. And instead of it being normal like this, where everything is all balanced, where you have a cis bond, here you have a trans bond where the hydrogen are on opposite sides. So when we're eating that, the body says, what the heck is this? And it has high temperatures, and we've talked about that before, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But trans fats are very high. They have a high boiling point. So when they have a high boiling point, what happens is it takes that much heat to break them down to utilize them. Well, if we're eating those, that's what gets buried in for women, a cellulite, for men, carry it in their belly. Those trans fats get stuck in there. And there's no way you're going to raise your body temperature up to 160 degrees to burn them off. So that's the other part of doing the purification program is because toxins and as well as fat is from the trans fats bury themselves in tissue. So that's one of the benefits of doing the purification, especially for women. You know, if you've done it once, it's great. Once you've done it a couple times, you'll get a second and third, benefit from that. So the other effects of trans fatty acids are they cause more inflammation, especially around the heart, kind of like the sugar causes the inflammation. So if you think about, when we talk about trans fats, you talk about a cookie. It's going to have a trans fat because that's what, and if you take a cookie from a package from the shelf and you set it on a napkin and you leave it on that napkin overnight, you have this lovely grease stain in the morning. Well, it also has all the sugar in there too, so you're getting the combination of the sugar, which is causing inflammation in the heart, and then secondarily the trans fats are causing the inflammation in the heart. And it's one of the key roles in forming the fatty blockages, because think about Crisco. Crisco is a hydrogenated fat. It's solid, and when they make it liquid, it's because they've heated it up and changed the makeup of it so that it stays liquid form. Well, in the can, that's what it does inside your arteries, and it creates the sludge similar to what the inflammation happens in the sugar. That low density lipoprotein builds up and creates that sludge, and that's dangerous not only to our heart or to our brain for either a stroke or a heart attack, but it also damages that whole lining of the blood vessels, and that causes inflammation in the heart. The other effects is it increases triglycerides. So not only do we eat sugar that increases it, but we're eating the foods like the cookie that has both trans fat and sugar. So once again, you're going to raise the triglycerides, which is a type of fat. I kind of make people think about it being sugar because of the glyceride here, because it's a glycerol, which is a form of a sugar alcohol almost, and it has 3 fatty acids attached. That's why it gives it the name triglyceride. So it contributes to hardening of the arteries, thickening of the walls, makes it hard for the heart to get the blood to pump through. So when your arteries and veins are clear and clean, when the heart pumps and is nice and strong, it has no resistance. But if you make a little sludge on that and narrow the hole, the heart has to push harder, which builds up pressure on the heart, which is increasing the blood pressure. So I think if you can understand these things, it makes you more likely not to eat them again, or be more discerning when you do decide to eat something. The other one is it increases the lipoprotein. Now, we already talked about that before, is that the triglycerides, when they're raised, the body can't handle that and calls in on the liver to make more lipoproteins, the LDL, and the LDL is what creates that sludge. So the lipoproteins have to carry the triglycerides around, so it's got a double job there, but that's also what helps to make the whole lining and the plaquing building up. Remember, if a piece of that sludge gets loose and goes to your brain, you have a stroke. If it comes off and goes to your heart, you have a heart attack. And that's the simple way to remember that. So we don't want that buildup of plaque in your artery. And I don't care how many statins you take, it may reduce your overall cholesterol, but there's no guarantee. They don't really have the research that says, oh yeah, it cleans out the arteries. Nobody's going to go in there and look. And like I've said before, nobody's going to look in a casket and say, oh, he died of high cholesterol. Nobody dies of high cholesterol. So, it's kind of more of a misnomer, and that's why making some dietary changes is more important than taking a statin, because a statin's not going to fix you. It may manage the symptom, but doesn't fix the problem. Only we can fix that problem. And you may have some genetics involved in that. Some people that are genetically high, you're genetically high, and it could be your HDLs that are high. So that's why we try to look at the big picture of the HDLs, the LDLs, and the other thing we want to look at are the VLDLs, the very low density lipid proteins. So you want to make sure when you're getting blood work that your doctor is getting a complete lipid panel, which will show all those numbers, not just the lipoprotein or the triglycerides, which are important numbers, but the VLDL is probably even a more important number in discerning which is a high cholesterol issue. So here's the difference, and this is why trans fats are bad, because it raises the bad guys, which are here, so they keep dumping the LDL in. It lowers the good cholesterol, which is trying to keep it cleaned out, because remember, the high density lipoproteins are the ones that stay high and keep on going. And they actually kind of lubricate the arteries so that things keep moving through. So why does the food industry use them? Well, because it makes things last long and it's cheap. And so the side effect of partially hydrogenated unsaturated plant fats is vegetable oils. So we consume a lot of them. They use all baked goods that are, especially more, not when we cook, like if we're going to make cookies, we're going to use butter. And hopefully we'd use organic butter. And we can make the recipe a little bit more natural because we could use a quinoa flour. We can make some changes in that. They're going to use white flour, and then they're going to use a semi-solid fat because it suspends at room temperature. So what? It lasts longer. And the partially hydrogenated oils have the right consistency to replace animal fats. So people think, oh, well, I'm going to have this, so it's not an animal fat where all the cholesterol is, but they're wrong in thinking that way. And then the partial hydrogenation, that increases the shelf life, and it's inexpensive. It's cheap. Semi-solid oils like palm oils are just so cheap to use. So that's what lets them do a big package of cookies. If we make cookies on our own, it's expensive. But you buy a package of Chips Ahoy. I mean, you can buy a pack for $2.79. I don't even know. I've never bought them, so I don't know how much they cost. But wait, there's more. So the trans fats are used in shortenings for deep frying in restaurants. So most of the restaurants are using conventional oils, even though they say they don't. And they do that because it keeps them from becoming rancid. And in the 21st century, the non-hydrogenated vegetable oils became available because they have lifespans that exceeded the frying shortenings. So remember, donuts are just fried dough in big vats of hydrogenated oils. And the fast food chains, they routinely use them. So they vary in the levels of trans fats. If you eat out a lot, you have to be aware because it's hard to, restaurants are going to say, oh yeah, we use trans fats. They don't want you to know because they don't want you to know. Then you wouldn't eat there if you knew the dangers of them. Most people don't. So here's, we got on this kick that margarine was much better for us, was healthier for us because it was lower in cholesterol and it was lower than in saturated fat because it was unsaturated. Well, let's just look how they make this. So they take soybeans, corn, cottonseed, canola seeds. They extract it at a very high temperature with pressure. Then the remaining fraction of oils are removed with hexane and other sulfins. Then the oil is now rancid, so they steam clean it, take all the vitamins, antioxidants, but there's pesticides and solvents still in there. And those oils are then mixed with a nickel catalyst. Then the oils with the catalyst are subjected to hydrogen gas in a high pressure, high temperature reactor. Then you get this beautiful soap-like emulsifier mixed in. And then the oil is steam cleaned again to remove that horrible odor because because when you bring that to the high temperature, you smelled oil burning. Well, it's similar to that. So now the gray color is removed by bleaching it because we don't have anything left of anything that it looked like before. Then artificial flavors and synthetic vitamins and natural color are added. It's packaged into blocks or tubs and advertised as health food. So these are, I can't believe it's not butter because it's not. Fresh buttery taste, margarine. So, if you're going to have butter, I'd rather you go get some organic butter and use that instead. I mean, it's not like, I'm not asking you to use a whole stick of it, within reason, but, that butter is not bad for you. It wasn't bad for our great-grandparents, but this stuff, that'll kill you. But it's healthy. Oh, this is a picture I found. It doesn't show up real good. This is margarine on just a plate. This is reduced fat margarine, and this is real butter. Look where the ants are. We need to take a little, inspiration from that, They know what's fake. They're like, no, thank you. I'll take the real stuff. Thank you very much. So that's kind of shocking when you see it that way. So toxic trans fats in processed foods. 40% of the foods in the typical U.S. supermarket contain trans fats, and this is what they look like. So that's why you hear me say when you're going to my favorite store, Publix, even though I don't have my technically Publix green shirt on, it's a darker green. So it's my executive green Publix shirt on. When you shop at a grocery store, outside ring, that's where the good stuff is. Don't go up and down the aisles. That's where you find all this stuff. And I'm trying to save you, not kill you. Remember, what we say is that when you make a decision to eat something, it's either a conscious choice of nutrition or a choice of suicide.
Now they have the wine on the outer.
Oh, that's much better. I feel much better now because they have the wine on the outer, yes. So these are all the symbols we'll see. Zero trans fats, zero trans fats. These are all the wonderful things you see. Even though it says that, I want to show you why. So most people don't know how to read a label. You may do, but I'm going to just remind you how to do that and how labels are set up. So we're going to do a little Reading Labels 101. So when we look at a label here, we see a couple different things. First thing we want to look at is serving size, half a cup. Because sometimes you'll get something like this size and you think, oh, that's one serving. But when you read the label, it says 2.5 servings. And we want to make sure we read labels a little bit better than that. So that's real important. So we want to know that the amount of calories per serving. So if that, like ice cream, who eats half a cup of ice cream? I don't. If I'm going to do that, it's not going to be a half a cup. I'm going to measure that and I'm like, that's not enough. That tastes like more. So you put more in. Gives you your calories from fat. Now the FDA requires them to do that. The total grams of fat, saturated, trans fat. Oh, I forgot to list anything. Interesting. Cholesterol, sodium, potassium, your carbohydrates, and then it breaks it down to dietary fiber and sugars or sugar alcohols, and then your protein, and then whatever vitamins are in there. So here's how we calculate to get this number here, and to just show you how things are not so accurate and unless you really understand what you're talking about or when you're reading your label. So 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. To make it easy, I just say it's 10 calories for easy calculation. So we take this number and multiply it by 9 and we get this number. So they said 45 calories, so 44.55 calories. They just rounded it up. Then 1 gram of carbohydrate equals 4 calories. So we take this number here, the carbohydrates here, and multiply it by 4, and we get that number. Same thing with the gram of protein, 4 calories, multiplied by that, gives us that number. A total of 139.7 calories. Oh, they forgot something, didn't they? Because that says only 137 calories. So even though they have to have these certain things on here, it's a little misleading. And especially this area right through here. So when we look at a label, now this is where I get in trouble at Publix because I go shopping around and I have my phone, and especially with my green shirt on, then they're really watching me. So these are Marie Callender's Delectable Gourmet Croutons. Whole grain. Oh, they have this all that they have on there. No preservatives, no cholesterol, 0 trans fats. So just because it says no trans fats doesn't mean it's so. And here's why. This right here is an excerpt from that. The FDA says, check the ingredient list on the foods package for partially hydrogenated oils because the nutrition fact label can state, well, they don't say this, I tell you this. The nutrition fact label can state 0 grams of trans fat if the food product contains less than 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving. This is, contains partially hydrogenated oils, and it might contain small amounts of trans fats, even if the label says 0. And the government says they can do that. So up to 4 grams of trans fats, and if you have something like this, croutons. How many people have 5 croutons on their salad? No, there are 10 or 15. Well, here's where reading the label really comes into hand. Now it says 0 trans fat right here, but look right here. Hydrogenated soybean oil, and look, high fructose corn syrup right next to it. So, and then if we look further, there's monodextro, so it's just just junk, and it says no preservatives. Caca. There's a bunch of preservatives right in there. So, that's where just reading the label, people think, oh, it's 0 trans fats, I'm good. But no, you probably have 0.5, and if you have 10 croutons, you've got 1 gram of trans fat right there. And that exceeds more than you should even have. My mom had we had a little argument. I don't think my mom will ever watch these, but this is good. We were talking one day, and she was asking me these questions, and then she said she was eating some potato chips. I'm like, Mom, those have fat in it. She goes, oh, no, they don't. I'm like, yeah, they do. She says, no, it says 0, there's no cholesterol, 0 cholesterol. There's no fat in this. No. So that's where I started saying, because people, if you don't know, it sounds good. And so I had to go back and show her, no cholesterol means it's just not animal fat. It doesn't mean there's not any in there. And, we don't realize how the fat kind of gets into our food. We had my partner, we were at the convention and we were having salad. And we don't have time to go to a restaurant, so we have a kiosk and get salad. So we got a Caesar salad, and I'm sitting there eating my salad, and she's like, I don't know how you can eat that salad without dressing on it. I'm like, and as she puts one package on, asks me for mine, and I said, well, have you ever read the back of that package? She goes, no. I said, well, read it. So she's like, oh, 180 calories. How many servings is in that? 3. 3 servings of 180 calories in a little tiny packet, all fat, with all whatever else it had in it. And it was all trans fat. And she's like, you're kidding me. So she had put 2 of those on there. So she made her salad, which would have been a good salad until she put all that on there. But she goes, I never knew that. But you know, and if you don't know, I have patients come in all the time. Doc, I want to lose weight. I'm like, well, what did you have for lunch today? I had a salad today. Okay, what kind of salad? I have to learn to ask the correct questions. So the salad we get is a Taco Bell salad, and with all the sour cream and the cheese and all the fake stuff on top, and they eat the bowl. So anything that was even valuable was nixed by everything else that was with it. So, you know, reading labels is really important. And that's why, you know, I try to tell people, you know, if you're going to eat out, try to eat out just 5 times a week. You know, we go out, but we only go out a couple times a week, and we try to do, you know, local restaurants and raw restaurants or sushi, because I don't make that at home. But we try to limit that because that way we have control over the foods we eat. So are all fats bad? Well, no. We have good ones and bad ones. The good ones, butter, lard, chicken fat, cold pressed olive oil, sesame oil, flax oil, tropic oils, coconut and palm. If they're cold pressed, we don't want the cheap stuff where they're hydrogenated, because hydrogenated makes their shelf life longer, and that's what ruins them. So those are all good. Avocado oil, all good. I had a little truffle oil in the soup I made for you today. And then all bad, all partially hydrogenated fats, margarine shortening, canola, corn, soy, safflower, all the fats heated to very high temperatures. So if you have any of those in your cabinet now, just get rid of them, because you're never going to use them again. And that's the important part, because I mean, I don't even tell you to give them to somebody you don't like, because I wouldn't even do that to somebody that I didn't like. So keep that in mind. So the different kinds of fat. So we have unsaturated fats, which we call our good fats. We have saturated fats, which would be coming from our meats. And then we have trans fats. So remember, we have our bonds here, we have our double bonds here, and everything's good because the hydrogens are on one side. We have our double bonds here, we have hydrogen on one side. But then, we have our one on this side and one on that side. Not so good. So that's where we want to kind of stay away from the trans fats. I don't mind unsaturated. Coconut oil is a medium chain fatty acid, and it's, you know, it has its benefits all in proportion. So hidden trans fats, you know, I want you to know what you can look for in the ingredients when you're reading labels. Anything that says hydrogenated, anything that says partially hydrogenated. Even hydrogenated coconut oil, I don't want you using. I want cold pressed, expeller pressed, anything but hydrogenated. No hydrogenated palm kernel oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil, corn oil. Safflower oil, canola oil, all not good. I mean, even though we've been told they're good. But who told us that? Who are they? You know, they don't, you know, so for me, I hear that, so I do the research so that I can teach you so you can make better choices in the future. So, organic. So, you know, I tell you to try to do organic, and I want to kind of go through a couple things because I think this is really important to understand and why I want you to eat local. And there are places around here, there are co-ops, you can go online, and I will give you a website next week that you can look up to find the different places that are local to here for raw food or for organic. So we know that organic food is going to be higher in nutrients than traditional food. All organic produce is going to be higher in all minerals and everything, because it's the way it's grown. You know, it's not been put in a soil that's been overused and depleted with minerals. The farmers, you know, for me, they're passionate. The organic farmers are passionate about their soil. They want to make their food good. They do it for themselves and they do it for others. So they're going to, you know, take really special care to make sure the soil is appropriate for the fruits and vegetables that they're growing. They're free of neurotoxins. Remember, toxins are damaging to brain and nerve cells. We have so many kids with all these things, and adults too. I mean, we have a bunch of crazy people running around now. Well, half of it's from all the pesticides. And remember, some of the commonly used pesticides were organophosphates, and they were used in World War I. And they're no longer needed to kill for warfare. So we said, oh, we got leftover, we'll just kill the bugs with them now. But we're still eating all that. You know, I mean, you can wash your foods, but you can't wash that. I mean, it penetrates the skin. Remember, the skin's a little bit permeable. So it still can penetrate the skin. They're real food, not pesticide factories. 18% of all genetically modified seeds are therefore seeds that are grown from them, are engineered to produce their own pesticides. Research shows these seeds may continue producing pesticides inside your body once you've eaten them, eaten the foods grown from them. So, we hear about genetically modified. It's really scary because, we have Roundup Ready soybeans now. Monsanto created that DNA twist so that when we grow soybeans and the weeds are coming, they can spray them with Roundup, and the soybeans will be standing there like, can't bother me. So, and we're eating that changed DNA. So that's why I want you to be careful with corn and soybeans and things like that. Make sure you're getting organic. The EPA estimates that pesticides pollute the primary drinking source of half the American population. So not only we are getting it in foods, we're getting it in the water we drink. And guess where the water comes from that we're putting on plants to make them grow? So buying organic helps reduce pollution in our drinking water. So, and I think I told you that in our neighborhood we had the big barrels delivered to us, so we had little bins for our recycling. So I have all neighbors that are senior citizens, all retired, so I said, let's recycle our recycle bins. So all of our neighbors are growing little container gardens with our recycle bins. So I'm growing beets and eggplant and yellow squash, and one of my neighbors is doing lettuce and one is doing beans. And so now as I'm about 3 or 4 weeks still from harvest, but then we'll all share. So, I can control what's going on in my soil. And I could tell you that I grow tomatoes that way also, that it tastes so different than what you buy in the store because they're usually gassed to make them that color. Organic is food choices are grown up on small scale organic farms. They help ensure independent family farmers can live a livelihood. And it's considered our version of domestic fair trade. And for the Lee farms, it's the family. The family delivers it. They pick the kids pick it. They've got 5 kids. And you can go on Facebook. It's Lee Farms at Webster, and you look at that. They won't deliver out here, but if there was enough, they could. Organic food's not exposed to gas ripening. So most tomatoes you find in the grocery store are ripened with ethylene to turn them from green to tomato color. And that's why they kind of resemble a lead shot put, and they have no taste to them because they're picked green and they gas them. And same thing with bananas. And I can tell you from being in Costa Rica, Del Monte and Chiquita have their banana fields. And as we were coming in, the first time I went to Costa Rica, we're coming in from the airport, and it's about a 4-hour drive to where I stay. And I'm asking the driver, I'm like, ¿Qué es bags azul? I could do bags. My Spanish got better as I went. And he's like, pesticide. So they put a sponge about that big, about that thick, with pesticides, and when the bananas come out, they put the sponge in there, and then they cover them with a big plastic blue bag. So they're treated the whole time they're ripening. Guess what? That's why I pick bananas off my neighbor's tree. I know he won't watch this. And I have some more. I may bring you some bananas next week. They'll be a little bit green, but I'll bring you some fresh bananas. So you can taste the difference in them. They're so sweet, and I know there's no pesticides put on them. So when you have that option, grow them in your backyard. I just let my neighbor grow them. It's less mess for me. Eating organic may reduce your risk in cancer. The EPA says that 60% of the herbicides, 90% of fungicides, and 30% of insecticides are potentially cancer-causing. So look at all the rapid, cancer, problem we have today. Is this the only problem? Well, I don't think so. But, does anybody know about Pottinger's cats? Dr. Pottinger, I can't remember if was he a dentist? Did you read the book? I can't remember if he was a dentist, but he was along the line with Dr. Weston Price, who was a dentist, and Dr. Royal Lee, who was also a dentist, who founded Standard Process. And he took cats and he fed them, cats a normal diet that they should be eating, took the other cats and fed them a processed diet. By the 3rd generation, the cat's DNA had changed so that the 3rd generation was being born with defects and bad teeth and bad hair and rashes and all those things. In 3 generations, they changed. So we're doing all this stuff here. You can only imagine what our generations are going to be like, from now to come. So it's reasonable to think that the rapidly increasing rate, may be linked to these carcinogenic pesticides. That's why I am such a big, proponent of trying to grow your own foods and getting local, organic. Choosing organic meat lessens your exposure to antibiotics, synthetic hormones, and drugs, and ultimately find your way into your own body. So we also have a good source of, and I'm not a super big animal fat eater, not for religious reasons or anything like that, but I every once in a while. But we can get grass-fed beef locally, and I know that it doesn't have any hormones in it, and we have that available here, so it's a little bit more pricey. We buy a fillet, and it's like $30 a pound, but you buy 4 or 5 ounce fillets every once in a while. But they're so tender because you can just cut them with a fork because they haven't been fed, orange rinds like they do the cattle here. They just throw big, after the juice company is done with all the orange rinds, they take those big trucks and they dump them in the field. And the cows eat those. And that's what makes our beef really tough and our milk not so good. So most people don't know that. That's Florida beef down here. But maybe raising the bar and trying to do the grass-fed beef every once in a while. There's a book called Diet for a New America, and what they were talking about is the amount of grains it took to feed the beef, to get the beef, could feed the population 10 times. So, and all the methane gas and all the pollution that's related to that. So, and that was the other thing that we were talking about earlier is, Chuck found something on his phone about Amazon Local, but it's a website that you order it and then it's shipped to you. But my thing is, and we'll talk about that next week, is to try to eat local, 10 miles within your reach. That way you're not having the exposure of, the gas, driving the car and having it delivered to you and things like that. So kind of start getting that in your mindset. I'm changing your whole world, and I know it's not fair, but I'm doing it anyway. Organic food supports the greater biodiversity. It's fundamental for life on this planet. Genetically modified and non-organic foods focus on high-yield monoculture and is destroying our biodiversity. So, trying to feed everybody, if everybody would just, take a stand and say no, but, we can only take care of ourselves. That's why I try to talk to you about these things so you can make a change. Organic food is earth supportive, when the big business keeps their hands out of it, of course. Organic food production has been around for thousands of years. Like I said, just in our simple neighborhood, we just made a simple solution to get together and, and I have citrus trees and I share my fruit with the neighbors. I have avocados and I share that with my neighbors. When I, extract my honey in the springtime, I'll share that with my neighbors, maybe. But we have we have that in the neighborhood, and everybody has something to offer. One of my neighbors brought me the bananas, and I have like 3 bags of the ones that I had from before, so I'll share those. But I won't let it go to waste because I think you would enjoy it if you've never had a real fresh banana. So you want to compare the modern agricultural practices. They're very destructive, and all the herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, it just damages the whole ecology of the world. So the environmental, I can't remember, something group, I can't remember what the W stands for. But each year they put out a list. They put out a list of the Dirty Dozen, and they put a list of the Clean 15. So this year, this is Shopper's Guide to Pesticides in Produce. So these are the fruits and vegetables that are the Dirty Dozen. These are the ones that you want to be careful of, and especially get organic. Apples, celery, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, grapes, nectarines, peaches, hot pepper, kale, and collards. So we get our kale locally and organic. So because we eat it, our household is a kale household. I eat, kale goes in everything. It didn't go in the soup though, but I'll probably put some in there. Potatoes, especially white potatoes. So you can see, and these are some of the new ones here that have kind of popped in: snap peas, nectarines. And then here, these are your Clean 15. So these are going to be a little less affected. Sweet corn, not just your regular corn that you get in the store. Still you're going to have to ask questions, know where it comes from. I just generally stay away from corn. I love it. It doesn't really like me, but I do generally stay away from it just because I know that I can't get it, heirloom. If you can, that's great. Sometimes you'll get a local farmer that'll do that. It's like heirloom wheat. It should be grown once a year at a certain time. And they were saying in 3 decades we won't have any heirloom seeds left unless we protect them. In Boston there's a library, and I can't remember which library it is, but they have a seed library. And you can go check out seeds. You don't have to, it doesn't cost you anything. They just ask you to, harvest some seeds and send them back. They're all heirloom. And so that's kind of cool. And there's places around here you can get heirloom seeds. And that's what I have, heirloom organic seeds that I used. So that's kind of cool. So you want to look at these things that you don't have to worry as much about those, but still be smart when you make your selections. If you're getting them off a roadside, make sure they're not from Chile or something like that, which is sometimes typical. Even in farmers market, they have produce that's from Peru, because they go to I have a patient who does produce, and they go to this big place and get all their produce, and whatever's good and whatever's cheap they get. So farmers market's not always the answer. So that's why I want you to be a little more particular and do local. So my message to you is to eat green, which is how we're kind of evolving into this. For me, we use a compost at home. I have a compost jar. I'll kind of show you some pictures of that next week. I'm going to talk a little bit more about chemicals next week, so we can understand the chemicals that we put on our skin. I think that really is important, and we don't realize some of the soaps we use and some of the makeups and things like that women use are endocrine disruptors and can cause problems. So I think that's really important that we are aware of those things. Men not so much, but even just shaving cream, has sodium lauryl sulfate in it. Well, that's what they use to wash cars in the car wash. We don't really want that on our skin. So I'll give you some alternate choices, and some places there's a website I'll give you that you can go look and type in your product to see if it meets the standards or it doesn't. So then you can decide to make a change. I use hairspray on my hair every day. There's some things that I do every day, but I try to select something that's not as terrible, and I try to be as smart as I can. And like I said, even for me, that's why I detox every year, because you can't go around in a bubble. We still have to live and breathe and do our things. So that's us. So I did a couple of things here. These are all things, like I said, I got to look pretty, blueberries. And on the website, did anybody try the green mango? Sally, did you try my green mango shake?
I have not tried that yet.
So, I just put a ton of kale and frozen spinach in it, and makes it a nice, pretty green color. But the blueberry, they're very a great antioxidant, low in calories, low in the sugar, and for 120 calories, it's not a bad shake. A lunch, nice spinach salad with a little nectarine and some balsamic, not the nectarines from the Dirty Dozen though. A lot of vitamin K. Spinach contains, a lot of also calcium, but it has flavonoids to protect against ovarian and prostate cancer. And then salmon with citrus cilantro salsa. Omega-3s, and I'm a big one on supplementing with omega-3s, because you cannot eat enough salmon to get enough omega-3s in. You'd be eating salmon 3 meals a day, and even I don't do that. Now, if I cook some salmon and I put it on a cedar plank and cook it that way, I have a big piece. I may eat it 3 times a day because it won't last long, and it just tastes so good. But generally, maybe that 1 week I get more omega-3 than I would if I took it by pill. But yeah, you're going to have to supplement. Or we'd be big as a house, and we don't want that either. So rich in vitamin C and the citrus cilantro salsa, Google. It's not in your recipe books.
Okay.
So you only have to take 19 pills, 19 capsules now. Same thing as last week. 2 to 3 shakes, 5 gastrofiber. Remember I told you to split them. 5 gastrofiber AM, 4 gastrofiber PM. That's 9 total capsules a day. 5 green food AM, 5 PM, meaning 10 total a day. That way you don't miss the 3 in the middle. If you want to take the gastrofiber three times a day, that's fine. For me, I kept missing my middle 3. I'd get to the end of the day, I'm like going, oh, darn. So I just split them. So remember, supplements. At this point, if you take them with food, it's not as crucial, but when you're doing the SP cleanse, very crucial because of what's in there. We really want that to have the effect on the liver that we want it to do. So now we're still kind of healing the liver. The liver's still working, but these supplements are really more for support and for healing. So not as crucial to take them, just with a shake or before or after. I try to stick to that just because that gives me a routine and a habit, keeps it in my mind. Exercise, walking at least 4 times for 30 minutes, 4 times a week or a day, 30 minutes. Yoga, remember, yoga is a lot of breathing. Breathing is great to detoxify the lungs, which is another way to detox the body, exchange of oxygen. And it says here, and this is from the book, strenuous exercise should be limited during the purification program. If you're a baby, then limit it. But if you were doing it before, no need to limit it. If it feels good, fine. If you feel a little tired, back off. And I've got all my little Fitbit people, that's awesome. And I like I said, doesn't it make you more accountable? Especially at the end of the day, you're going, oh, I only have 5,000 steps, better get busy. Now cheating. So let's have this little conversation, okay? Now I have to say, I've done the detox, and I've not really I've never done anything like this on detox. My cheating would be I had some cashews instead of just seeds. That's about as bad as I get. So when we're talking about cheating, I'm going to ask you not to cheat by eating any of the non-approved foods. If it's not in the book, you can't have it. We talked about that. So these are all the foods that will really destroy your diet. And because your body's clearing the food away, the antigens from the bloodstream, then it's now had the opportunity to actually seek out, so sometimes I'll have patients that do the detox and actually get a little bit sick or get worse after the detox because now their body's been suppressing something that's been going on. Well, now the body can actually express it so we can manage it. So that's why at the end I always offer you an opportunity to do a consult so we can take a look at some things that may be going on that you don't know about. Even one little tiny bite of that food is enough to make you sensitive or allergic, and I will show you next week the times of allergies so you can tell the difference between a sensitivity and a true allergy. Most people are just sensitive, not really allergic, but once you've gotten that out of your system, like for me, I didn't know I was allergic to wheat. I would go to Panera's, we'd walk over to Panera's from my office, have a salad, I'd eat the bread, then we'd go for a walk. I'd walk outside, and within 5 minutes of walking outside, all of a sudden I get these palpitations in my heart, and I'm like, I feel like I was going to have a heart attack or I was going to pass out or something. And it kind of bothered me, and I kind of talked myself through it, and I never dreaming of what it was. When during the detox, I still went and had my salad there, but I had an apple instead of the bread. Didn't really notice anything. We still did our walk. After the detox, had the salad, and I thought, I'll just have a bite of the bread. As soon as I put the piece of bread in my mouth, I had the symptoms. And it wasn't until then that I realized that I had that, a sensitivity to the wheat. So now I just generally stay away from it. Because, it was like my boom, boom in my head, and my heart was pounding, and I could see my heartbeat in my eyes. I'm like, oh, this is not good. But it was an allergic reaction, a sensitivity to it. So, like I said, I just generally stay away from it. But I would have never known that until I had gotten that all out of my system, and then when I added it back in. And I'll show you how to add things back in that you may suspect. Usually it's foods you crave or foods you should suspect. That's my best rule of thumb. An alcoholic craves alcohol and the sugar. So if you take the alcohol away, they usually drink coffee with a lot of sugar in it, or they're eating something with a lot of sugar in it to replace that craving. And like I said, once your body becomes cleaner, you'll be more sensitive to foods that are good for you. You'll want to make better choices because now as you make things, you can notice that your taste buds are different, and maybe some things you didn't like. I have to share this. This is my group in Eustis. One of the patients posted it, and she said that she'd been married to her husband for 36 and a half years, and he made her promise never to make Brussels sprouts. So she has all these years. Well, they're both doing the detox. So she made Brussels sprouts and broccoli and a couple other vegetables, cut them up and roasted them, and didn't say anything and just served it to him. He ate the whole plate. And she said, that was their one degree of change, to try some new things that they never tried before. So I thought that was really cool, very special. So here's what I talk about. You may never notice an empty can thrown into a backyard of garbage, but you will always notice a gum wrapper on a golf course. Your system is now becoming clean, so when you put crapola in it, it's gonna show, and it's gonna make you feel bad. And if it, I've had patients go do something and they come back in. I got sicker than the dog because I went out and we ate Mexican, like on the day 15 of the purification program, and I couldn't believe how sick I got. Well, even if they went to the local Mexican place, it still is going to have the trans fats and all the stuff that, those tortillas are made with trans fats because that's how they last long and stay on the shelf long and stay fresh. Exactly. So I always say that we have more wiring than the space shuttle, but we drive our bodies around like a garbage truck. So, we get one body, take good care of it. We can't trade it in on a new model. So keep that in mind. All right, 7 more days. Any questions? You were full of them last week.
No.
And I don't get to add anything new, sorry.
But, okay, so one question. I have, since we started this,
Right.
I have felt so fatigued.
Okay, are you adding enough protein?
Well, I'm doing the 2 shakes.
All right, are you adding like a whey protein powder to it?
No, just the SP.
The SP Complete?
powder.
You may need a little more protein. So you can either do, if you're just doing 2 shakes, sometimes what I'll do is, since I do just 1 shake a day, I'll put an extra scoop of SP Complete in it.
Okay.
So if you're gonna have up to 3 shakes a day, that means you can have 6 scoops total. So put 3 in each of your shakes.
Okay.
And maybe add just a little bit more protein, maybe hard boil up some eggs so that you have them available.
Okay.
And that's probably why.
Okay.
And you may be detoxing, like I said, it may be uncovering another problem, which I would suspect probably an adrenal problem you might have. And that's just looking at you and knowing what you're experiencing. We will talk about that after the detox is done. I'll offer something to you at the end. Questions?
I know you're going to cover it next week, but how long should you wait between introducing from one food to another?
I would do a good 3 or 4 days, because about 72 hours, and I'll show you a chart of what takes longest to react. About 72 hours, maybe even another day on to that. That way you have a true, I would introduce 1 food at a time. And like I said, usually it'll be a food you suspect, and that's the one you crave. And as soon as you put it in your mouth, you'll know the difference. So like I said, it kind of forces you then to be good. Doesn't mean I won't have a pancake or something like that, but it's rare that I do it. I won't do bread at a restaurant because it really makes me feel bad. Sometimes if it's maybe a whole grain bread that's maybe a little bit better, I'm okay with it. But if it's just like a sourdough or anything like that kind of bread, forget it.
Did you just learn how to use different flours through trial and error?
I just play.
Okay.
Yeah, like I made the pizza, and I'll give you the recipe for that. And it's just quinoa. I just use regular quinoa, uncooked. Put it in my NutriBullet with the milling blade. Did you get a NutriBullet?
Yeah.
Okay, so with the milling blade, it came with that 1 flat blade. With a little bit, I put flaxseed in there and just blended it up so it's like a flour. And then I added some, chia seed to it, and a little bit of hot water, and a little bit of olive oil, and mixed it up and spread it out and baked it. I added a little bit of Himalayan salt and a little bit of garlic powder just to give it a little flavor. And you could pick it up, and we baked it, and you could pick it up and hold it and eat it like a pizza. That's what we're having tonight when I get home, because football's on tonight, so perfect football. But I mean, when it was baking, it smelled just like pizza. It's a little thinner, like a flat bread like a crust. It's not a soft doughy crust, but it's it did the trick, and my mouth waters thinking about it. So yeah, I just experiment with it, and like I said, I do a lot on Google. I think about, for me, I've got a really good nose, meaning that's what I love about drinking wine. Not that wine, I don't like that the wine has alcohol in it. I know it sounds funny, but what I like about the wine is to be able to pair it with food, smell it, pick out the different flavors, the grapes, the different smells, the rubber, the tobacco, whatever that I smell in there, and to have the food and watch it taste. So I've got a real nose. I can go to a restaurant and eat something. I was away this weekend, and I had some scallops and some shrimp and a salad, and they had like a coconut curry. Well, when I tasted the curry, the way they had it made, I figured out how to make it, and so I'm going to try to do that this week with some chicken. So I'll experiment and let you know. But that's trial and error. The recipes in the book are very good. I have my group over in Eustis are trying the recipes and posting them, and they're amazing. And also they said that when you put your Fitbit in the wash machine, it walks like 2,000 or 3,000 steps, and it's waterproof. Yeah, she came back. She was on there. She goes, yeah. She goes, I looks like my exercise is really doing well after I washed my Fitbit. So I thought that was cute. So experiment. Don't be afraid. But honestly, most of the recipes I do, I just think about what I want it to taste like, and then I Google it. Like I just thought, I want to make a pizza crust out of quinoa because that's what I had in the house. I didn't have any cauliflower because I bought a ton of broccoli to do this, so I didn't have any room. And I just Googled, quinoa flour, and I'm like, I don't like that one. And I got a recipe, and then I just doctored it and hoped it turned out. If it didn't turn out, we had plenty of soup to eat. And I'll give you the recipe of the soup. It's real easy. I'll post that on the potato tomorrow. It was real easy to make. That's all just asparagus and broccoli and a little bit of chicken stock and a little bit of onion and garlic. And I did put some sesame seeds in there and a little bit of truffle oil just for special.
Going out to eat is such a challenge. What do you think about Seasons 52, where
Great.
all of the meals
Yeah.
are supposed to be under 600 calories?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good place to start. I mean, you have ethos. Like I said, I try to encourage people to eat and at least once a month try a restaurant like that. I mean, come up to Mount Dora and try our Vitality Bistro. I mean, I had spaghetti there, and it was shocking. How good it was, and it was just the zoodles like I make the zucchini noodles, and Marianne had raw violi. It's not cooked. They only cook it to 118 degrees to be considered raw. We have Cafe 118, which is another raw restaurant. It's a little bit pricey. I mean, it's not like you're going to go eat there every day, but we did, instead of having a glass of wine with dinner, we ordered a green shake and split it, one of their green juice shakes, and did that for our appetizer drink, and so it was really good. So Vitality Bistro, and that would be a kind of a fun little day trip. They do lunch and dinner. You can go on their website, and they have specials, and so it makes it kind of fun. But yeah, Seasons 52 is a great restaurant. Ethos, Nopa. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. And I'll show you a list next week in Winter Park. I mean, Winter Park's better considering we have maybe two in Lake County area, because you have the villages and they just drink up there. They're old. They don't care. So, any more questions?
You have coffee in the bad pile.
I do.
I thought I had seen it in the
Coffee in the bad pile? No.
Yes.
So we talked about Detox, and it was the Swiss. It's a trademark. You sent me the text on it. It's trademark Swiss water processed if you're going to do a decaf coffee. And coffee's not bad. I would get organic coffee. I would get fair trade. It's Swiss processed. I'll put it on the Facebook.
Water process.
Swiss water, and it is a patented, trademarked process, because when they decaf coffee, they actually decaffeinate it with chlorine. We did that in organic chemistry. That was one of our experiments. We took coffee and we used chlorine to push it out onto a little paper disc, and we would weigh the disc at the end to see how much caffeine was in it.
But I'm not saying during purification, I'm talking
Right.
about after.
No, I mean, I think as long as you're not medicating yourself. I mean, if you have a cup in the morning, maybe two, that's fine. But if you have, at noon you're tired, so you have a cup of coffee to wake you up, and mid-afternoon you have another cup to wake you up, no. Then you're medicating. It's just, it's just like, if you're going to have, when we were growing up, my mom and dad told us, if you're going to, you don't sit around and drink a six-pack of Coke. So why would you sit around and drink a six-pack of beer? If you're drinking it as a beverage, great. But if you're drinking it to medicate, not so good. So all in, balance. Switch to an herbal tea in the afternoon, if you want something hot. And for me, mostly it's the ritual. I do a green tea in the morning or some lemon, and my lemons are almost ready. I may see half of them are turning yellow, so I may bring some lemons in next week and bananas. Not a good mix, but it'll be I'll share. All right, so I will see you next week. All right, same time, same station.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.